Hey guys, Stable here. Today we got a game in the Bismarck. Going to talk about the build Celiac, Slot 2 Porcupine, Slot 4 Secondary Mod. We got Von Hipper, he's a base commander, greatly increases the range, slightly increases the accuracy. Harunas, event commander, opposite. Slightly increases the range, greatly increases accuracy. Slot 1 secondary perk, Slot 4 secondary perk, bring it on. We're going all in. Now, the Bismarck and the secondaries in particular have gotten numerous buffs over the years. Okay, when the Bismarck first came out, this is kind of what everybody wanted it to be. But over time, the secondaries have gotten better. The penetrations improved. The mods that are available, of course, the secondary mod there on the bottom. You can see the third module or consumable, whatever you want to call it, there on the bottom. That greatly increases the accuracy, and keep an eye on the accuracy of these things when that thing's activated, because you'll kind of see a generalized spray before that, and then it tightens up. Of course, we trade 2 heals on this build. Celiax does have access to the heals perk in slot 4, but by enhancing that module with the slot 4 perk, well, we're going all in on the guns, but we are losing the heals. So most players that are going for secondary build probably won't go with that slot 4 perk. I always have on this ship, just because if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing, right? So that's the idea here. Here we're on neighbors. We're on the side that I'd prefer not to be on. I'd rather be on the more enclosed northern side, or the side that is much more cover. But we're taking a gamble down here. We're just screaming down here as quick as we can, hoping to close in on these guys close range, because this, of course, the whole idea of this build is we got to get these guys close enough for the secondaries to activate. Then we got passive income when it comes to damage. Alright, and our secondaries, 11.7 kilometers, I believe. We'll see the stats here pop up in a second. But we got some range on these puppies. Okay. Now another one of the buffs, I think actually the most recent buff to the Bismarck itself, aside from all the secondary reworks and buffs and stuff, the accuracy on this ship and the turrets has gone up quite a bit, and we'll see some of that this game. It used to be extremely hard to hit anything until you're like point blank range with this, especially running Celiacs, which you're going to run the Bismarck, well, you might as well put Celiacs on there. But traditionally, the main guns were just not that useful, and so it made it quite laughable when you saw these things parked on the moon just trying to launch shots downrange. I still think that's pretty laughable. If that's what you're going to do, go get yourself an Iowa or something that can at least accommodate that playstyle a little bit better. But it's not as goofy to be launching long-range shots downrange. So now that we can finally hit stuff with the main guns, now that we have this outstanding performance with the secondaries, this is going to be what the ship's capable of. And yesterday, we put out the top Tier 7 Tech Tree Battleships video. And this one was middle of the pack. I think it was 4 out of 7. Which isn't bad, especially considering how balanced and strong all those Tier 7 Tech Tree ships, the battleships, are. So not feeling too bad about the Bismarck coming in at that spot. Here we're going to start to see these secondaries in action. You can see we don't have any hits yet, but now there's the opening secondary salvo. And the idea of this is if we can still angle here right about there. If you look at the diagram at the bottom, that angle, roughly we can get all those guns firing. You can be a little bit steeper. I don't think you have to go completely 45 degrees. But if we can do that, if we can maintain some angling, then we can protect ourselves. We do have turtle back, and the closer we get to the targets, the harder time they are going to have to give us big booming shots. Then we get these passive shots coming in here. Secondaries going into the Helena. The Miyoko takes him out with the torp, which is fine. Colorado on fire. And so how it works generally is your secondaries will start them on fire. A lot of players will be forced to use the damage con, or they'll just use it right away. And then we reset them on fire. Now they're kind of, in the state of, oh man, I'm getting whittled down 2 ways and I'm only putting out damage 1 way. Colorado moving forward here, and I'm relying on the secondaries to finish him off, trying to deal damage to the Bismarck. See how low he was. He was right on the ropes, wobbling there, the corner man yelling to stop the fight, but he actually gets the heal off, and this is kind of one of the risks that you always take when you don't finish off the ship. Okay, if he stays alive, he gets another salvo off. Whatever damage he gets, he didn't deserve to have, right? He should already be dead. and you can see he's out-healed the damage the secondaries were given. I think he might have shot, and we blocked basically all of it. But even though he's not doing huge amounts of damage, he could kill the Miyoko. Let's say he was still alive over there, or gets another shot off on someone on our team, or knocks out a gun. Whatever he does, he's kind of playing with house money at that point in time. So we aim up there at the top gun, trying to knock that out. Anything that goes higher above that will hit the superstructure. And now he's back on fire, and now he's finally going to go down. But you can see all this time, had we just shot him there, he probably would have missed 2 extra salvos and the Bismarck. We could have focused our attention on him a little bit sooner. Luckily, though, our secondaries have been pummeling him. Now we're within his secondary range, of course, but usually our secondary build is going to be the most superior one in any match that we're in using this build. So, you know, if he wants to get close to us and trade secondary shots, usually we're going to have more success over time. And so we're trying to angle between those 2 ships, kind of kept the nose halfway between the Colorado and the Bismarck. Finally took them both down. 2 kills, 90,000 damage. You can see over 200 secondary hits already. And these are the games that we look forward to in this ship. When we can get close enough to actually get these fireworks going off, then you can start to have some fun with the ship. The ship doesn't work in those legendary tier games or the high tier games where everyone on your team drops the anchor or even backs up. You know, they're like, you go forward. We're not going forward. You go forward. Well, if that's the case, then everyone focuses and you die, and then you yell at the TV and ask yourself, well, why did you ever decide to play this game in the first place? But games like this where you can either, you know, the enemy cooperates or your team cooperates or both, then you can have a lot of fun. Look at this. We got a potential double strike set up here. Miyoko, and we'll see the secondary action in these cruisers. We do get a nice shot on the Edinburgh, and he's low. Miyoko's really low. And with this build, we got a nice quick reload on these main guns. So we're going to try and time this here. We're going to try and see if we can either shoot the guns individually, or if the Miyoko looks like he's on the ropes, maybe have the secondary gunners hit him, and then we'll try and blast the Edinburgh, because he's running from the guys to the north, so he's showing us broadside. And look at this. This is a good example of crossfire positioning for battleships. You know, how much separation we get from them, how much opportunity we're going to get. We'll see that for the rest of the game here. Here it is, though. Shots away on the Edinburgh. First salvo hits. Doesn't take him down. Close quarters for the Miyoko. And, oh, the Edinburgh. He's got about 10 health left or so. So, a good execution there, but unfortunately, we just don't get the last bit of health that we needed on him for the double strike. That's all right, though. We are up to 4 kills. We could have had about 6 so far. But Miyoko finished off the Helena, and someone else finished off the Edinburgh right there. So that's fine. We're hunting for Kraken. Didn't get the double strike, but we can't have everything. We are having a nice, entertaining game in the Bismarck at the very least. But let's get back to that crossfire positioning. What am I talking about if you're a new player? Well, look at the closest battleship on my team. 1, 2, 3 squares away. Very rare at a high tier that you'd ever see any separation between the battleships at all. Normally they clump up, hold hands, and kind of shiver and shake together in fear. And that doesn't allow these shots to materialize, because you can see here the Leon, well, he's pointing northward. He's angling against all those ships, trying to protect himself against the bulk of my fleet. But because we aggressively crashed into his western flank here, now he's vulnerable for the entirety of the match. And that was the example a moment ago, and we'll see another shot here of the improved accuracy that the Bismarck. You would very rarely see these big booming shots back in the day. You couldn't really hit anything. You'd have to, if you wanted some accuracy, you'd have to go with Von Hipper, or if you got like the Halloween Hyde or one of those guys that had accuracy builds available. But then we're, of course, sacrificing the potential to use the heals or the secondary build. You can't lean into it as hard when you're focusing on the main gun. So I think the ship is in a pretty good spot right now, and it took a while to get here. Now, granted, this Haruna is not essential. Another option is the AL Fuso that increases the fire chance. That's what I used to run before this. You guys let me know in the comments what you use on your secondary builds if you're going pure free to play, because I'm sure there's other good options. You could always put on Kedrov or something offensive if you want. Celiax's built-in ability increases AP damage, by the way, so it's an offensive beast to begin with. But let me know your builds for your secondary focused German builds. because I know a lot of you guys don't have all these commanders that the community contributors get for free all the time. So you can't necessarily lean into this. But the Haruna, I think, is the stronger of the two between Von Hipper and her, because we're adding a little bit of range, but tightening up actually quite a bit. And Jean Bart, oh boy, this game is not over. They do have a Leningrad running loose. Now, I don't know if we pinged yet or if we're about to, but we did suggest one guy go back to the base. It's not going to be an issue this time. So Leningrad's coming down to the die next to his Georgia for whatever reason. But had he gotten around the team, and had he had maybe 2 or 3 more minutes, there's at least a slight chance that he gets on our base. Now, if this Georgia stays alive long enough to shoot all these battleships that get on his base, then potentially there's a throw in the making there. But luckily, it's not. And it's a long shot played, trust me. And again, I think he probably didn't have quite enough time to make it. But nevertheless, you always want to have at least one guy defending the base, unless you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're not attempting to push it, because you don't want to lose games, especially when you're up manpower, when you got a ship advantage. Now the Georgia, he's actually doing a pretty good job angling. See how, look on the map, he's got his rear kind of pointed right in the middle of this pack, and I should actually be going due south instead of pushing here, but I was trying to angle against those torps because we saw the devastating strike, or the devastating shot at least, that the Jean Bart took a moment ago. I want to make sure I was pointing towards that destroyer roughly, just in case he goes on a torpedo run. We, again, are trying to protect against a loss at this point in time. I don't really care that much about the George. He's going to have a hard time gunning down 4 battleships that are surrounding him. But the Leningrad, rather, you never know with these destroyers late game, especially when we are all battleships on this team. So due to the fact that they weren't able to remove him quite yet, we're primarily trying to make sure he doesn't kill us as we concentrate on this Georgia. Nevertheless, though, we're charging in here. We do have the secondary ready to go because we know the Leningrad should be close, and we would like a 6 kill. Sure, why not? So we fire the main guns, then we pop the mod there, and once again, see how tight these groupings are. It's not going to last too long, unfortunately, because they kill him there, but you can see it tighten up there right at the end. So that's a look at the Bismarck for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and if you did, please hit the thumbs up. Hey, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We got lots of World of Warships, and it's coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. Love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.